Okay, it's currently 7:50 a.m. and your boy's been jet lagged, so I have not slept yet. It's just been throughout the night. Meanwhile, though, I have been editing the video for the 104 days thing that I'm gonna do, and so that's been interesting. I guess people here get a snippet of it. But let me put my phone down and just talk to the camera. Essentially, hello, welcome again to another episode of Mide and Mide's life and whatever is going on here. Um, yeah, today's honestly been a pretty chill day. Nothing much has happened. I've been at home for the most part, just been with my family, been with my mom, my immediate younger brother, and my youngest brother. The guy in the middle, the middle brother who is the guy in the middle between my immediate younger brother and my youngest brother. He's in Italy right now, so he's enjoying. He's doing an exchange program and whatnot. But anyway, so today's topic, what I think I'll highlight in particular, is throughout this whole day, there's been a lot of interesting things. I actually recorded myself for the first time. I've never recorded myself reading a script. It's hard, guys, because if you're trying to look at the camera, you can't actually be looking at the script that you're reading. And in my case, technically, I think some people have like a laptop at the back and then they look at or a laptop or a screen at the back and then they look at what they're reading as they're talking and everything. But in my scenario, I couldn't do that because I my laptop was mirroring my phone so that I could see what my phone was recording so that I could know I was in frame and know that I was situated properly. So I had to have this like crazy system of having my iPad, which initially I had on the floor. And so I had to look at my iPad, memorize the lines, and then be like, okay, this is what I'm going to say to the camera. And then go to the camera, active, out of it, like do all the different like movements and whatnot. And that is hard. Yo, recording on a camera is hard. It's also kind of weird because you're just talking to a camera individually. Like, you're kind of yapping, I guess, and so it doesn't really matter. But you're talking to the camera super extreme in an extreme way, and especially if you have emotion, then you have to be super serious and whatnot. It's a bit weird, but it's honestly like it's a bit weird. You kind of get used to it quickly though. But that was just something. Eventually, I did put the iPad up so I could actually, so it was by the camera, so I could kind of read it. And so, interestingly, if you take notes of this, then you'll see in the video that sometimes if I look down, is because there was the iPad there. If I look to the, I guess, to the left in the video, but to the right in real life. If I look to the left, then it's because the camera was at the iPad was there, and I was kind of trying to read the lines. For some of these, I wrote really long things, and I didn't really want to cut them multiple times. And so I wrote a really long paragraph that I had to memorize just there and then just talk through and everything. It's been an interesting process doing that. Anyway, so what I did want to talk about though is that after this and after a few discussions just throughout the day, I had a little bit of a discussion on what it meant to prioritize and everything. And so I talked to my brother and to my mom what their opinions were. My mom actually gave a really interesting point on like you have 16 hours in a day, divide that based on how much time you need for yourself and how much time you want for other people. From about when you wake up to 12 p.m., depending on the scenario, I don't think it's super feasible in school, but when you wake up to 12 p.m., keep that for yourself and everything else, keep it for other people. And I found that interesting because actually it is important. In balance, you actually should have restrictions and restraints and just demarcations on what is for this and what is for that. Because I've always thought of it as just like using my time however I need to use it, and then things will fall into place. But I think I should have an idea of the time that is my time, the time that is not my time. And I should have a notion and perception of how much time I've spent on my own self and how much I have spent on other people. Because I feel like I tend to do go either way too far, either disappearing and only spending time with myself, or spending a lot of time with other people and not having enough time for the things that I need to do. Anyway, that was a really interesting conversation. But the conversation that I want to highlight was a really interesting conversation I had with my brother. So my brothers have grown. It's so nice when after like now that they're grown that they're sentient now. So they're not just like before, like way before. Like it used to feel like my brothers would always just like play around, do whatever, and then I was like this was around the time when I was a teen. Like when I was a teenager, like I started thinking about all these things and all these like deeper topics and questions, whether about faith or about my understanding of the world or about just my perception of others or psychoanalyzing, whatever it was. I started thinking about all these things and I didn't feel like I had anyone in the house to really talk about it with. Later, I started talking to my parents about it. My brothers, I was like, they don't understand. Like, they just don't think about these things. And then later on, like, I they started thinking about these things. And it's been fun because I've been able to like talk to them, just like walk through things and everything. But so my brother and I, we were talking. We had a really interesting talk about what it means to be vulnerable and what it means to be seen. He was talking about this one girl that he spoke to that he doesn't even know, like a friend of ours that, or more of an acquaintance of ours. My friend is married to her, and it's kind of crazy because my friend is, I think 20. Like they got married at like 19, and it was wild. She's actually older than my friend, but anyway, so our friend married this lady, and I remember my brother was telling me about how he met this lady essentially for the first time. They hadn't really spoken, and when they met, it was almost like the way that they were talking was almost as if they'd been friends for a super long time. The number one thing that came down to it was just openness. Openness to talking about how things were actually going rather than just talking about the generic, like how's the weather, oh it's fine and everything. Openness to talking about the things that are really, in Norwegian you said cloud, yeah, disturbs people, like disturbs you and is like really getting on your nerves and everything. The openness to do all that, I don't know, there's an interesting balance because I really love it when people open up, just because it feels more real, intentional. It feels more genuine than just like saying saying just the normal, usual things that people tend to say. It feels less superficial than those things, but at the same time, I don't know. I feel like at times, because I want to, I don't also, because sometimes we know what it looks like to open up and be vulnerable and do whatnot. And so we tend to like act like we're vulnerable and doing all those things, but then we're not actually being it. That's a whole different problem. That's a whole different problem, a different story. But we were talking about what's it meant to be vulnerable and what's it meant to be seen and heard as a result of being vulnerable with another person. You're talking about your problems, you're hearing their problems out, or whatever situation, or their joys, or their whatever it is, and you're relating with it. You're talking about how, oh yeah, I really empathize with this, you empathize with that. It was a really, and so my brother was talking about how he felt seen and heard, or he was talking to me about like this amazing feeling he had, and I said, yeah, like you felt seen, you felt heard, like that's a beautiful thing, that is a beautiful thing to have. And then interestingly, he talked about the other scenario, or another scenario where he was talking about how in a different situation he was talking about something, or sorry, we got into the conversation of being vulnerable and why it's difficult to be vulnerable. And he was talking about how he doesn't want to be vulnerable because he's afraid of getting hurt, which is a very common one. For instance, I don't like being vulnerable because I'm afraid of letting people down, and whatnot. But so he talks about how he was afraid of getting hurt. How one time he was vulnerable and he was talking to someone about something that he couldn't really make sense of and everything. And they essentially just said, oh, that's not how you should be. You should be like this and you should be like that. And he felt like he didn't feel seen or heard or anything. And so he kind of found it difficult in that case to be vulnerable and open up and talk about what's actually on his heart, because in a way he was told that he shouldn't do that. And I think it's a very interesting thing to think about. How better can I open up to people and make a space where people can open up? And it's not a case of being the one that everyone tells everything to, but I think it's a case of being the one where if someone needs it, they can tell you. Because everyone does. We all do need to open up at some point. But I think it was a really cool conversation just to have that conversation. We had this while we were cleaning parts of the house at like 2 a.m. And so low key cleaning is fun when you get into deep conversations. But yeah, it just made me think a lot about like for me, what does it mean or no, what does it mean, but how can I allow myself to be more open with people? Because I tend to be restricted at times. Like even if I tend to be a mix of both. It depends on the scenario, depends on the thing as well. I guess everyone kind of is like that. But I tend to talk about a lot, but then in some cases, like I hold on to things a lot that I really shouldn't hold on to. And if I let go of it, if I let go of it, then I would have a lot better of a life. And if I give it to God, even, then it makes it even better. Anyway, that's the spiel for now. Will I go to bed soon? I guess we'll find out tomorrow when I talk about it. 9 minutes and 36. I'll see if I can end it before the 10-minute mark. Yeah, I'll keep editing this for a little bit. I might be able to get it done. And if I do, then I'll just upload it and we'll see what happens. Okay, that's it for today. Thank you very much. I'll see you soon. Bye.